Welcome to Table Talk. I'm Rich.
And I'm Alex, and today we're going to talk about sequence.
Sequence. That's right. 1, 2, 3. A, B, C. Do, re, mi. Welcome to Table Talk, the show about beer, board games, and absolutely everything else that we can think of. So
everything else.
We're gonna, it's a new year. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
This is season 2. Season 2, episode 1. Or there.
There you go.
There. I'm gotta be careful because the wrong finger's gonna go.
Careful with fingers, man. Careful with fingers.
Yeah, season 2, episode 1, 2021 is finally here. Thank goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll get more into that later on. But yeah, we'll go ahead and start off like we usually do. Every episode starts with beer and board games, and yeah, we are talking about sequence. I'm interested to know what type of beer you have, Alex, because it's season 2. It's the sequential season, right?
It is.
To season 1.
Yes.
So that's kind of the theme of the show that we're doing today. So what beer do you have, Alex?
Absolutely. All right. So today, and I got to give a shout out to my brother-in-law, Ryan Perzicki. Shout out to you, Ryan.
Shout out, Ryan.
He lives in Asheville, North Carolina, which is one of the East Coast's kind of beer capitals. So in this case, he recommended what is called Wicked Weed Brewing, and this is their Astronomical Hazy IPA.
It's a little shiny. Bring it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, shiny. Right there. Hold on.
There we go. Okay.
Wicked Weed
Brewing and Astronomical Hazy IPA, and it even has a really cool face.
Ooh, look at that!
Look at this! Look at that face with the moon and everything. So, I was thinking a lot about numbers and order and things that kind of go one thing to the next. Right. And what is more sequential than the solar system, where you have different things in line? Obviously, we are the third rock from the sun.
Third rock from the sun.
Yeah. So we're planet Earth. We are on Earth. Neither too hot nor too cold. We are Goldilocks, just right. So I thought, what a better way to honor our Goldilocks situation in drinking Wicked Weed Brewing Astronomical Hazy IPA. And Wicked Weed is one of the main brewing houses in the area of Asheville, North Carolina, which is western area of the state. I'm pretty sure if you live on the East Coast, you can usually, if you look around, this is one of the more popular craft brews that's out there. So check it out. It's very good.
Nice. Wicked Weed. We'll hold it up again because I actually, first thing I noticed about it, the wicked part, the W's, look like 2s. The first part.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Right?
Right there. Yep.
And 2 is going to be a big number that we're going to talk about later on. But season 2, and look, we got a little 2 right there.
Yeah, right there.
At least that's what I see when I look at it.
Right there. Yep,
yeah.
You can see
it. There you go. Yeah, I like it. Cool.
Yeah.
It's a hazy IPA.
It's looking forward to those. Looking forward to this one. But yeah, that's what I went for. What about you? What'd you go for?
Well, it's right here behind me. Bell's Two Hearted.
There we go. That's a good one.
I did one Bell's last month.
Okay.
But I had a lot of beers last month. and I'm actually going to attempt to drink this today. I'm going to go slow. I probably won't drink all of it.
Okay. All right.
I'm kind of leaning back into it just a little bit just to kind of see how I feel. But yes, I'm going to do another Bell's, and this is Bell's Two Hearted. So 2 obviously being an important number in the sequence of numbers, right? The second number overall. But also the Bell's Two Hearted Ale is well, I have a whole story about it. So in 1992, so the Bell's Brewery, right?
Okay.
So they had a beer called Oberon, which actually wasn't called Oberon.
Okay.
It was actually called something else. I think it was called the Soul Sun, because there was some dispute. I think it was like a legal dispute over the name. But that was their big beer, right? That was their summer beer. That was their best-selling beer for Bell's Brewery. Cool. And then in 1997 is when Two Hearted came out. And it actually became the best-selling beer in 2003 for Bell's. So it is the second best-selling beer. of it took its place, right? It's sequential,
Right.
right?
Right.
So this is now the best selling beer for Bell's, and so
Nice.
that's why I chose it for those reasons.
Well, shall we divulge?
Yes, we shall. And I'm also using, since this is my last year that I get to use this mug and have it be accurate.
Very nice.
Yeah, so my 30-year-old mug.
I'm using one of the few mugs we have that's for beer specifically, but this is for Star Hill Brewery.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, cheers to your last moments in the year of 30.
Thank you. Well, actually, here's what I think we should do. Hold it back up here again.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I think you should take a drink, and then I should take a drink in sequence.
All right. And you're saying I go?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm gonna drink.
You go.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And now I'm gonna go. And now you go.
And that. We have to do this the entire show.
Yeah, this is the entire show right here. This is all we're doing for the next hour.
This sounds like a performing arts demonstration.
You got to keep up. Come on.
Dude, you said take your time. Hold on. You gotta take your time, man. You just literally said I want to take my time. All right. I gotta make this last the show. All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right, great.
Oh, I love it. So I do want to make a point right at the top of the show. If you're listening on the podcast, be sure to check out the YouTube channel, Table Talk with Rich and Alex. The video version of the podcast is posted there along with the audio version, which you're now listening to. And if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to plug us into your ears with the podcast version. Yep. You can do either or, but we post on the YouTube and we post on the podcast as well. So just be sure, if you're on one platform, be aware of the other one as well. And we do recommend the video version. The video version is a little bit more fun.
We do a lot of work to make the video one work, and especially Rich.
Yes.
You've done a fantastic job in creating something that is a lot
taught
more
me
than
everything
just
I know.
audio.
You taught me everything I know. And then also we do want to say links in the description for Bell's Brewery and the brewery that Alex is using. What's the name of the brewery again, Alex?
It is called Wicked Weed Brewing.
Wicked Weed. So the brewery, the links to those breweries are going to be in the description, along with the skip ahead. So you can actually skip ahead in the description to different discussion topics that we're going to list out. And if you're listening to the podcast, those should be listed as chapters. So just go into the chapter listing and you can skip ahead to those different topics. And then we'll also put the board game information in there as well.
If you're listening for the start of season 2, thank you for listening to us for season 1. Needless to say, Rich and I have learned a lot, both in how we do the podcast, but I think a lot about each other, but a lot about and I'm sure all of you listening have had to deal with this in some capacity, but a lot about being adaptive to the given situation. Yeah. When you first started watching us, we were in person. All nestled in a small little area known as Brooklyn, and we were making what we thought anyway, what was going to be a podcast that was mainly in person. But we have since changed locations, both of us, and we are now we've essentially figured out how to do a podcast remotely, which is really interesting. Yeah. I actually, frankly, have come to really enjoy this, but it is definitely something that we're kind of going through. So with that in mind, what's great about
it's kind of fun because I think it's safe to say that honestly, if we didn't have this show, we should be doing this anyway. Just you and I.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it's so fun to just hang out and it's interesting the timing of it all, that it came during COVID and it kind of came that we got it established before COVID really hit, because even like now more than ever, people want to be out, not maybe not necessarily at the bar. Sorry, I got fuzz in my hat.
That's all right. I thought that was one of those cool like tag things.
I thought it was too, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know that was there.
Yeah. Sorry,
but no, now more than ever, people want to be out and about with people, and as we met at a bar,
we did,
and it's it's now it's just not a thing anymore. It hasn't been for almost a year now.
Yeah, and
And
that's weird. That's
I
really weird.
think if anything, I love the fact that this has been kind of reminiscent of that, and it kind
Mhm,
of
mhm.
continues that bar conversation. Um, anyway, hopefully that's been what it is for other people as well, and hopefully
Yeah,
it's been what it is for you. Kind of
yeah.
the natural go out and with a friend and hang out and talk and
There's
thing.
something about being able to share one's stories,
Hmm.
and not just simply like our own musings, but also discoveries. I think is an interesting thing. Where again, and this is why we're talking about sequences. Is it's interesting when you are learning about topics and you talk about topics. There is a like sequence of growth that you go through. Where
Hmm.
like there's things that I think about now because of this show that I would have never had considered. For those
Right.
of you guys who listened to the Christmas episode, like I kept on thinking about different things that Santa, does or would do, or or gifts, or different people that I've been wanting to talk to for a while, but just haven't spent the time to do that. But
Yeah.
because of Christmas, like reaching out. Um, so like I don't know, I'm very much looking forward to this year. To start the year, we want to talk about sequence.
Hmm.
And sequence is a very for those of you who have probably had any type of remote board game activity as a family growing up in the summers, you probably have stumbled across this game at least once or twice or multiple
Right.
times.
Yeah. Should
Because we
be
have
very familiar to
very
most of
familiar,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a game of both a little bit of luck and a little bit of strategy put together. It's really easy to learn, but it is also one that takes time to really get good at. But what's really fun is that I mean, it gets better the more people that are playing, um,
Right. Yeah.
which is fun.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about.
And I like that. I like that we're going back to a very relatable game as well
Yeah,
for
no, yeah,
episode
same.
1 of season
Yeah.
2, because that's how episode 1, season 1 started.
What game was that?
It was the game of life, Alex.
Yeah, I feel like that game has more luck than that whole past year on the rolly
Yeah,
spin
right.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. Where is COVID in the game of life? What
Not
square
there.
is that on?
Not
Like,
it's yeah.
you just flip the whole board game over, and that's what's written on the back of the board. It's just COVID.
COVID.
Yep.
That's
In order to get to the COVID square, you have to flip the whole game over, and that's
fine.
pretty much what
And
it is.
catch all the pegs on their way down. All the
Yeah.
little people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, speaking of the board game,
Yeah.
do you want to get to it?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Cool. All right. So here it is, sequence. This is the board. This is the board that it comes in. So if you don't know what it looks like, you can find this real. I mean, some of these games we've talked about, you got to order them online, or you got to like maybe go to a game store to find them. You can find this at like Target. You can find this at like Walmart.
Yeah.
It's very kid friendly. If you got kids, play it with your kids. It's very family friendly. I grew up playing this with my family as well. And Alex, I think, has already said that he's played it with his family.
Yep.
So
I think I learned this in late middle school to begin with.
yeah. So it's a 2 to 12 player game, which is actually very unique. You can actually play this with 12 people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You can't do with a lot of games, unless it's like a card only game, like Apples to Apples or something like that. 10 to 30 minutes to play for ages 7 and up, also known as One-Eyed Jacks, which will make sense later on. And it's designed by Doug Reuter, published by a lot of companies, but I think Jack's Games is the main company that pushed it out. And it's an abstract strategy game. Sorry, an abstract card game, which it doesn't really look like a card game, and it kind of doubles as like a card and board game. But technically, it's got card mechanics. So the key mechanic is the hand management is the main mechanic to the game, which we'll get into. So there's the layout. So you got the board, you got all the chips on the left. So you only have 3 colored chips. Green, red, and blue is the traditional setup. The cards you have to the right. So there's 2 52 card decks in these cards, including the jacks, but you don't see any jacks on the board. And we'll tell you about that. So the board shows all the cards. The 4 corners are free spaces and count for all players equally. So, so whether you're the blue, the red, or the green chips, for you, all the corner spaces are blue, red, or green, respectively, depending on what your color is.
Mm-hmm.
You can play 2 to 3 individual players or 2 to 3 teams with a max of 4 players on each team in a 3-team game, which gives you the 12 total players. All right. Little artsy shot here.
Nice.
Oh, yeah,
little
look at
Boca
that.
lens action. Nice. All right.
So the players compete to create rows,
Mm-hmm.
columns, or diagonals of 5 connected checkers placed on the cards that the player has laid down. So basically, you're going to have a hand of cards. So let's say for this instance, we see the 10 of clubs there right in the middle. So in order to put your green token on the 10 of clubs, you would have to have the 10 of clubs in your hand and then play it, discard it basically into a discard pile, and then put the token down to play it. And then as you can see, this if we're looking at the green player here, their diagonal row of green going from, it looks like the 7 of spades to the 10 of clubs, and then up to the, probably looks like the 3 of hearts up at the top right, has been interrupted by a column of blue tokens. So there's a little battle going on here of who's trying to get 5 in a row. So it's kind of like Connect 4.
Yeah.
In the sense you're trying to block other players, but it all depends on what cards you have in your hand to lay down. So these are the jacks. So 2-eyed jacks are wild, which means if you have a 2-eyed jack in your hand, I honestly didn't know this about jack cards until Sequence, that you had one jack that was only looking like this.
Yeah, it was like
And
a side
another that was
profile.
doing this. Yeah.
It's very I don't think I realized that either until this game, at least as a kid.
Yeah. So 2-eyed jacks are wild. You can place any token anywhere you want to. You just can't place on the corner tokens, obviously, because who would want to? And then while 1-eyed jacks are allow you to take a token off of the board of an opponent. I would love doing this as a kid. It's just something so satisfying in watching somebody place a token, and then your turn, you get to play your 1-eyed jack and take that token off, and just, exactly. Flick it.
Yep.
Flick it away. So yeah, the game ends when someone has reached a specified number of connections. It's usually 5. I think you can do more in some variations of the game. So you have to have 2 sequences for 2 teams or 2 players. So the first person to get 2 sequences, so 5 in a row on the board, will win. You only need 1 sequence for 3 teams or 3 players. So you can work in teams, obviously. Something very interesting about this that I had earlier in my notes. There's no table talk allowed in the game.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You're not allowed.
Oh, that's right. Between like if you're playing in teams, you can't.
If you're playing in teams, yes,
right. You can't do any. That's right.
Which we haven't talked about. I mean, the name of the show is Table Talk with Rich and Alex, and table talk is a gaming term, which means that you can't talk at the table. And there's some games that have this rule. And we haven't really talked about this, but one of the funny jokes about Alex and I and board games is that the first time we had Alex and his wife Caroline over to play a game, we ended up table talking all night.
We didn't play the game.
We didn't play the game. We sat down to play it, and we never did. We should have that game on here some point. It's Mystery at the Abbey.
Yep. Still haven't played it.
Yeah, I think it's
no. We did. But it took us like 7 months or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the funny part about that whole story is that Andy ended up, my wife, at the end of the night, because what happened? It's like Clue, basically. You put the card underneath the board. At the end of the game, whoever guesses you pull out the card and you see if they're right. And there's a whole bunch of the different variations to choose from and characters to choose from. And my wife just said, I think it's so and so. And she pulled out the card and she was right. So she ended up winning the game without really
on a one guess.
It.
Yeah. Which but then made I just love it. Made the whole night being like, oh, we didn't even need to play. Like,
right?
She knew.
Yeah. I mean, it was like we ended up playing, but we didn't play.
Right. It was compressed within 5 seconds.
Yeah. And it was like midnight at that time. And we're like, oh, yeah, we should probably go. We never got to play the game. Anyway. But yeah, no table talk allowed in Sequence. And if you didn't know that little nugget about why the show was called Table Talk, then that's why.
Season 2. New facts, new learnings. Here we go.
Yep. There you go.
probably the predominant time that I played this would have been in high school. I played this one a lot because of my siblings. You and I grew up in similar fashion where we were one of four. And because we were pretty spread out, like my youngest brother is 7 years younger than me. And then my sister.
I forget, are you oldest?
No. I got one sister who's 1 grade older.
You're second.
So yeah. So I'm second. Yeah. But there's about 8 years worth of a spread between all 4 of us.
Okay.
And so with that, obviously you have to think about, like, how do you, especially like at the beach when everyone's there, it's like, what games can you play that isn't just Candyland? Because Candyland, though valuable as a rule teaching game, it is largely, you start wanting to play some other things by game 2.
Yep. It's a one and done game.
It's a one and done game, right? And Sequence is both challenging in that you have to be strategic enough to win, but it's not overly challenging where if you're young, it's hard to understand the rules. It's pretty easy to understand. It's sort of like a battleship situation. So really like this game.
Very easy to learn, very easy to play, but the entertainment value is there.
Yeah.
And the replay value is there.
It's so easy to replay it all the time.
Yeah. But anyway, there's Sequence. So we're going to go through some discussion topics today. And everything's sequence based.
Yeah.
Which is kind of difficult to conceptualize, but bear with us. Discussion topics that we're going to go through. We're going to talk about sequential things, which is kind of broad, I guess, but we'll tell you where our thoughts are with that. We're going to talk about 2021 calendar. So we're going to talk about 2021 and events that are coming up in 2021 that we're looking forward to. What we do to stay organized. We're 2 very organized guys. No, we're not.
No,
we are not organized guys.
Though I will say I am far improved over my 10-year-old, or 10 years prior self.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think even just doing this together with you, I've seen myself and you become a little bit better about being organized.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. I think our wives would have more to say on this topic than we do.
But, yes.
We're going to talk about the number 2. Like I said, the number 2 is going to be an important number for this episode, not only because it is an important number, but because it is season 2, episode 1 of Table Talk. And then last but not least, we're going to compare best versus worst sequels to movies.
I have so looked forward to this topic.
Yep. If you're a fan of Table Talk, you know that we cannot go one episode without talking about movies. We are, well, you're a movie buff. I am a movie fan. And I can somewhat hold my own with movie conversation.
Yeah.
But I am interested to know, anytime Alex and I talk, I want to turn the conversation towards movies because I know he's going to have a plethora of information to share with me. So, and hopefully everybody out there is excited about that as well. So let's start at number 1. So Yep. This is how it goes. This is a sequential process to the episode. We're going to start with discussion topic number 1. We're going to go on to topic number 2, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Right. Etc.
Etc.
Which is from The King and I. And if you haven't watched The King and I, you should watch that as well.
It's old school. Yul Brynner. Yeah.
I mean, not etc. isn't necessarily from The King and I. It's just
no,
that's the popular quote.
No.
So yeah, sequential things. What did you have in mind, Alex, for sequential things? I'm interested to know, since you were a tour guide for New York City. What specifically to New York City do you have in mind when it comes to sequence?
So a couple things. So it's fascinating to me. I'm gonna start off with, I think, one thing that everyone who has been to New York, I hope, has done, which is ridden. I think
Rodin.
I think grammar is the next thing in sequence for me to work on.
Sure.
They have taken a ride on the New York City subway system.
Good cover up.
Thanks. Yeah. No one will know.
Yeah.
But for those of you who have ever been on the subway, you'll know that there are letters and then there are numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought it's interesting. It's like, all right, so there's all these letters, right? And there's all these numbers.
Yeah.
But like no one ever really talks about like, well, why is it letter and numbers? Why not just all letters? And why does not all numbers? Like what's the deal?
And they're not in sequence.
No, they're not. Which I think that is very fascinating. Now, some of the way, and this is the thing, I don't know enough about the history of the subway as to where the letters and numbers came from. My guess is because if memory serves, is there was a time where the subway was not actually run by the MTA. It was run by several different organizations.
Yeah.
The history of how New York subway came about was fascinating to me because they built it in the idea that the city was going to become bigger, and like they essentially they started with one thing, and then it eventually it kept on growing to where it's huge.
Right.
It's largely considered probably the most famous subway system in the world, and because of that, I think anyway the history is dating from the fact that these letters and numbers I think come from the fact that there's a couple different companies that used to run the subway, and then down the line, the MTA then took over and it became what it is today, which, some people say that's great because it's one thing running it. But then, of course, you run into the problem if it's one thing running it. Like if they're not running it well, tough luck.
Well, we could have a whole conversation on the subways themselves.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think I have a great if you're a gamer fan, board gamer fan, I think you know exactly what
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, but we'll save that. We'll save that.
We'll save it for later.
So speaking sequentially, do you think it started out? It didn't start out obviously as big as it is now. Where do you think the main tunnel was dug? Do you think it was dug?
It was Manhattan. That's where it started.
I mean, obviously, well, yeah, in Manhattan, but I'm thinking like straight down. Like what I'm thinking of A and the C. And
the A is one of the oldest lines, and then there was one. I forget which number it is. I think it's like the 4 or the 5. It goes to Astor Place, so it's near Greenwich Village area.
Okay.
And the reason why I know that is that if you go to Astor Place and you go into that subway station, there's actually some really cool old school. It has something like the old school entranceway, so you can kind of tell that it's older.
Oh, okay.
A fun little story about this. So when the subway opens, big fanfare, big deal. And it was kind of the height of this whole like New York was becoming the world city, right?
Right.
So the subway opens, and there's that moment where the mayor gets the symbolic, instead of the golden spike or the golden key, he gets a golden lever for like the train to kind of thing. So
okay.
The photo op is, as all these things go, is like you do this and you go like this and you go, and then it's
right,
and then there you go, and then it's in the New York Times. Now, apparently, as so the story goes, is the mayor, of whose name I forget, insisted to the to the train engineers. He's like, no, I want to be the one to drive the train first. I'm the mayor. I'm gonna do it. And they're like, we probably should. He's like, no, I'm the mayor. I'm going to do this. So like, okay. So there's essentially like the distance between from like the Astor Place area to where I guess the end of the line was traveled in like, I don't know, we'll say 25, 30 minutes, right? Between every stop. So
what year are we talking? Sorry.
We're talking 1904
ish.
Yeah.
Or are you certain?
I'm pretty sure it's 1904.
Okay. Because I'm going to double check you.
No, it's okay. I mean,
and if you're wrong, it's going to show up right down there.
Alex is wrong.
Yeah, Alex is wrong.
All caps.
So 1904, and the fastest way to get around at this time is still horse and buggy, right? Because the car is not really a thing.
No, it's not a thing. Well, and not even that, but the roads aren't built for the cars. So like the cars are only as useful as the roads. So the
I just
whole
assumed the cars drove on the dirt roads for the. Were they even dirt?
I mean, well, that's the thing is it was like a mixture of dirt. But then now, and this is the other thing is that back then there were also an above ground trolley system. Like trolleys existed, trains existed.
Oh right, yeah,
long before
trains.
So
obviously,
there was above ground freight trains, and actually there were the Cowboys of New York, which is also a weird story. Is that there was a freight line that historically it was near Hell's Kitchen or Chelsea, I forget, one of the two, where people kept getting run over because they didn't pay attention that these freight trains are coming. So they hired these dudes who were actual cowboys on horses whose entire job was to actually ward off people. Hey, a train is coming. You're gonna get hit if you don't move. You're gonna get hit if you don't move. And these guys had a job like this. This Cowboys of New York were there till like the 1940s. Like this was a thing that lasted a long time. So there was that. There was that above ground thing, but the underground thing, that was in around 1904. And it largely happened because of the blizzard of 1898, but I'm not going to bore you with that story. So that's another fascinating tale.
So the Cowboys of New York went from herding cattle to herding people.
Which is, it's...
So they're more like people boys.
Kind of. That's a little weird, though. Cowboy sounds a lot better.
Sure. Cowboys of New York. The Cowboys of New York does sound better. I've heard Gangs of New York, but I haven't heard of Cowboys.
Right. I mean, people who herd cats aren't called cat boys.
We should make this a movie if it hasn't been already. You and me.
People boys.
No, we can do
the Cowboys.
We can do Cowboys of New York.
Yeah,
because I think that'd be a cool movie. But then we'll do a spinoff. We'll do a sequel.
Actually, we should start.
We'll do a sequel called People of New York.
Well, and we start the series as a sequel.
There you go. Yeah, we'll Star Wars it.
Yeah, we'll just blow people's minds.
Yeah.
So the story goes, to finish the subways.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So the story goes is he insists, I must drive this train. I must be the first one to drive this train. And they're like, okay. So they sit down, and according to accounts in the newspaper, what I remember reading about is essentially the mayor is like full throttle on the train, thing, just on the lever, just full down, and the train is flying, down the track. No, making no stops, no nothing. Nothing happened, right?
Okay.
But the best part is like it's like watching, like all I could think of is it's like how a parent must first feel when they give the keys to the kid and have them drive in the car. But then the kid's like, I'm going to go 80. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go on the freeway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to start making lane changes without a signal.
Yeah.
And being like, I admire your courage, but I don't think you're quite the right person to be handling this at this given time.
Yeah.
So that's how the New York City subway started.
That's a good story. I like that.
I always enjoyed that story. The other thing that, at least in New York, and you can attest to this too because of you living there, is the numbers for the avenues, numbers for the streets, letters for the avenues,
right?
And that would be the grid system of Manhattan in particular, of which is one of the. I never thought before having lived there that I would have loved the grid system so much as far as a metropolitan design.
Yeah, and
a tool.
Navigation tool.
A navigation tool until I lived there. And what is so interesting is when you come to understand the logic of that sequence of how the streets are designed, suddenly you become an expert. Yeah. Like you become an expert in the city where you can take that ownership in a way where if someone says, hey, do you know how to get to this place? You not only can you tell them where to go, but you can tell them where to go, and you'll just be like, oh yeah, it's just 4 blocks up. We're on 5th. It's it's on 9th Street.
Yeah, you can kind of educate them.
Right, you can educate them, and they can educate themselves while they're going there because it's logically sequenced.
Yep.
And that's something, and I know it's in other cities as well, but like New York in particular, I'm fascinated about the history in the late 1800s and early 1900s in New York. They say essentially after the Civil War to essentially the Great Depression, that era of the expansion of New York when everything just shot up and grew out, and the population density was really, crazy. They say it was like 300,000 people per square mile in some places of New York.
Yeah.
But the fact that whoever it was sat down and thought out, okay, we're going to do A through Z or A through whatever, and then 100 and I guess First Street to 100 and I think it's 25th. All the
high.
way high. And someone was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do the whole island."
Yeah,
because why not?
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating about New York is if you draw a genealogical line for much of our country's history, if you come from
sequential history,
if you come from a European, a Middle Eastern, Central and South American background in particular, you can usually draw the line to New York as the where it started. Usually, not always. My family originated from Philadelphia, but like usually you can draw that line. It is funny to think about that, like generationally, my ancestors, this person survived, had a kid, that kid survived, had a kid, that kid survived, had a kid, and so
it is funny that that's basically what ancestry is. It's just people having kids
and surviving.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And you look back in time, and I'm sure everybody's, if you've done an ancestry.com or any type of ancestry history, people back in the day had kids, like 8 kids, 9 kids, 13 kids. Like, it's like crazy. And like for me, almost every other kid was named Henry for some reason. I have no idea why.
Hey, Henry's a good name. Henry's don't wear it out.
I'm just saying, like, if like, I don't know, like I don't know. Can you imagine having a brother named Henry when your name is Henry?
Henry, yes. And
hey, and then if you have a cousin named Henry.
Hey, dude, if you're working someplace and your kids are helping out the family, what better, like at a restaurant? What better way than naming all your kids one name, and then you can be like, Henry, yes, go get some eggs. All right, I have a dozen eggs now. And here we go.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. That's interesting. Man, we got off onto a history tangent there.
No, it's okay. Well, speaking of kids, your next topic is interesting in that capacity. We're talking like the grades. You're talking like first and second grade here.
Well, here before we get to the grades, I wanted to share with you. So, I wanted to share with you a sequential gaming.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a thing. Sequential games are games. This is almost beyond our capabilities of conversation, I feel like, because it's getting into mathematics, and it's actually weirdly connected to A Beautiful Mind. The
great movie.
Yeah, the Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe? Yeah, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, you got it, yeah.
It's happening. It always happens. I start questioning whether or not I'm saying the right words. Russell Crowe. He's The Beautiful Mind movie, right? He plays John Nash, and he comes up with, I think it's called the Nash equilibrium, which I still honestly don't understand what that is. It's basically if you stick to your strategy and I stick to my strategy, and we're only out for ourselves, neither of us is getting the optimal solution for either of us. But if we adjust based off of each other, if we work together, basically, then we can find a better solution for both of us. That's very basic. If you're a mathematician and you understand what the Nash equilibrium is, then by all means, feel free to post something in the description that explains it better than that. But that's basically what I got. And that's only from the movie. But basically, a sequential game is something like chess or tic-tac-toe, where one player makes a move and all the information is on the board. So any game that is a sequential game basically leads into decision trees, and there's like this whole sub game that's being played. And if you can kind of backtrack from the end where you want to be through the decision tree, you can basically win every single time. It's kind of the concept.
Got it.
Basically, why if you've ever played chess on your computer against the computer is always going to win because computers are programmed to understand those decision trees. Whereas with humans, we can't compute all of those scenarios, right?
Interesting.
So any layout of a chessboard, right? A computer is going to navigate what decision needs to be made based off of backtracking all that information.
For those of you who have watched Queen's Gambit, I'm sure that you're understanding what Rich and I are actually talking about.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch that. I haven't watched it yet. So anyway, I wanted to get that in there before we talked about
Yeah.
grade school. But yeah.
Yeah.
But now going into grade school, like, right, we have first grade, second grade. What changed for you between first and second grade? What was that sequence like? Like, what do you remember anything like about that?
Well, I remember in first grade looking at second graders like they were huge.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, you're in second grade. Wow. You know, kind of thing.
To backwards induction that, have you do you now look at kids and think, wow, they're really, really small?
Oh yeah. Well, now it was funny. I was talking to.
It's not backwards induction.
I was talking to my wife today about somebody. I was like, yeah, I think they're in middle school or maybe in high school.
Right.
I don't know.
You don't know.
And it's like I feel like I'm that guy who lost the oar and the boat is just slowly drifting from shore. Because I'm like, I don't know anything anymore. And I feel like I'm far away from this academic life. And
well said.
Right. Well said. I'm sorry. But there's a piece of me where I'm kind of like, I don't know. And well, okay. First and second grade. You know, I personally actually really enjoyed school where it's like, all right, first grade, you do these certain things. You do like I had like a penmanship thing where it's like you got to work on penmanship, which you know, no one learns cursive anymore, which is unfortunate because I think typing is overrated, but unpopular opinion. I don't remember specific subjects in second grade as much as I remember feeling more capable just as a person. Like I could
Good
write.
For you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Doesn't mean it worked out.
Yeah,
but,
didn't stick, but yeah,
you know,
for one brief moment in my life, I felt pretty confident about myself.
Just a glimpse. There's a lot of growing periods that happen in that time frame where you're old enough where things actually are remembered pretty substantially. Mm-hmm. Like that's one thing that I remember about second grade more about that. Like things felt like they had more impact than in first grade. Just like on a like, okay, I'm learning this lesson. I'm remembering this thing. Yeah. Like I felt bad if I did this thing, or felt good if I you know
got a
made
star.
a hit, got a star, made a baseball hit, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did things feel really serious for you when certain things would happen in second grade? Like, I can't sit at that lunch table, or you know, something like that.
Right. I remember being really embarrassed about a lot of stupid things. I liked girls, even by first grade. I had a girlfriend. So second grade, I definitely had a girlfriend. Same girlfriend, actually.
Wow. Okay.
So we were holding hands in the hallway, and I learned that we couldn't hold hands in the hallway. But to me, it was just like I was just being nice, right? Like I didn't know that was a bad thing to do. Just saying. Like I just wanted to hold her hand. Come on. Did I tell you my nickname was Richie the Kisser?
Wow. No, I know that's new.
Richie the Kisser. That was my nickname in grade school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And the rest of my life has been an effort to make up for that nickname. No. Anyway, let's move on to things to look forward to in 2021.
Darn right. Let's talk about 2021. What
are you looking forward to? Is anything in January, February, March, anything within those months that you're looking forward
to? Well, you know this very well, Rich. You've known this for several months. For those of you who are listening on the podcast,
yes,
my wife and I are expecting.
Yeah. Baby Barker.
Yeah. We can do like strobe lights or whatever. Yeah, we're very
congratulations.
Excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you again. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so we're excited for that. That's January. So I'm, it's funny. Besides that, honestly, I am not expecting anything of 2021 other than most of this.
Yeah, right.
We don't know what it is. For those of you listening, we don't know. We've decided that 2020 has been one of the more, for better or worse, memorable surprises of our lives in general for everybody. So we thought, why break precedent? And we are, so we're not going to know until the child is born, which I'm excited. It actually has I think has provided some fun conversations with coworkers and colleagues and friends because of that.
Yeah.
So that's what I honestly, that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Yep. That's a very good thing to look forward to.
Other than that,
yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm not really expecting much. How about you? What are you looking for?
Well, I think first and foremost, obviously, I think it's vaccine. COVID is on everybody's mind. So first and foremost, start to the end game of all this quarantining, and with that, hopefully comes time with family for 2021. Hugging, I miss hugging so much. I miss hugging so much. Like I'm gonna hug so many people once this happens.
Like, I could just see you're waiting on a street corner on a stoplight. Hey man, how's it going? Yeah. Good. Yeah. You want a hug? Yeah, I actually do. And then you just gotta go up. Yeah. And he comes over. What are you guys doing? Hugging it out.
You're hugging.
Do you know him? No idea. Never see him again.
I'll never see him again, and I didn't see him before that. Yeah, I just want to hug people. I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shock for some people that how much I want to hug them. I'm still Richie the Kisser at heart. I just want to hug people. I just want to hug people. Movie theaters, going into a movie theater and watching a movie. I'm looking forward to that. Concerts, going to the gym, all the stuff that we deemed normal before all this happened. Looking forward to all that. So sequentially, that's the first thing. And then obviously we have a new president, president-elect that will be happening in January. Right?
Yeah, that'll be, I'm fast. Again, all of it. Fascinating.
Yeah. Regardless of which side you are on, I think one thing that we can very much look forward to is our first female vice president. Kamala Harris will be the United States' first female vice president and the highest ranking female elected official in U.S. history.
Wow.
There you go.
As somebody who's just fascinated by history and change and when things happen.
Yeah.
Even if one doesn't look forward to the policy of a certain candidate or certain perspectives or whatever. Mm-hmm. There is a fascination knowing that because this has happened or will happen, it means for other people that thing seems more attainable.
Right.
Right. And I think about all my friends with daughters, all the people I know that have daughters who will in some capacity be affected by the fact that there is a woman now who will be vice president. And I think that's important. I mean, the fact that you're, again, whether or not you agree with the person, knowing that Harris is going to be VP and thinking about, all the girls around the country who may look at that and be like, you know what? I'm not even going to run a Democrat. I don't care. I don't like her platform, but she's there. Yeah. And so it makes a person think about it. That it's like, okay, that's what
attainable. I'm saying. Like whether or not you support her or not, I think it's the same with Obama, right? When Obama got elected president, like you're just like, whether you agree with his policies or not, you still have to acknowledge the fact that he's the first African American president, and that's something that hadn't been done before, and it's a long way from where we were, even 50 years ago, even 40 years ago, really. So anyway, that's something to look forward to. In May, since we had our whole superheroes conversation, Black Widow, the movie, is apparently supposed to be coming out in May. So that's something to look forward to. I think it's supposed to release on May 7th, 2021, more than 1 year after it was originally scheduled to be released. So
I know Dune is in that similar position.
Yep, I have Dune on this list as well. Dune, Tom and Jerry is supposed to be a movie coming out from Warner Brothers. There's supposed to be a Friends reunion in 2021.
Wow.
Matrix 4 is supposed to be coming out in 2021. With
Matrix 4?
Yep. Moving right along. Other discussion topics.
Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of a question that I like asking other people all the time, just because I'm always interested in different little life hacks and stuff like that. But organization tips. So when we talk about sequence, we talk about things that happen in a specific order. And for things to happen in a specific order, usually they need to be planned in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So in the conversation of planning and the conversation of organization and that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
one to two different tools that you use that maybe not a lot of people know about that helps you kind of organize your thoughts, organize your. I mean, this could be as simple as to-do lists if you wanted to go that like if that route,
Mm-hmm.
but something you found that is helpful to help you organize your life. Something tips that we can give other people too to moving into 2021. How can people be better organized? What advice can you give them? I'll finish the question with that. No, actually, I'm going to keep rambling. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to wait for you. I'm just going to wait for you to say something, and I'm going to continue on.
Wait. Stop. No, sorry. All right. So one thing that I found interesting, and I don't know how many people struggle with this who are listening. The thing that I have found challenging as a millennial is how much we are force-fed the ability to do anything we want. And yet everything that we use is meant to distract us every 5 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Case in point, you go onto Facebook, go on Instagram, go on to, well, I don't know why you go on Twitter for this, but let's say I want to reach out to, I don't know, a cousin or a friend. And you're like, oh, I don't have their contact information. All right, I want to go to Facebook and I'm going to pull, I'm going to find their profile and then, hit the message and then, type out a message.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you Facebook is going to do all in their power to make you do 5 things before you actually do that one thing. So 20 minutes later, you're like, what happened to my time? So one thing that I've realized, I say all this in terms of organization. One thing I have come to really hold true in my life is being very specific about how I interact with not simply technology, but how I interact with what are my life priorities about how do I want to wake up and how do I want to go to sleep. Those two things. And I remember in particular, it was a pastor that actually talked about this that got me really thinking. And he's like, if Instagram if Netflix is the last thing you do before going to bed, and Instagram is the first thing you do when waking up, what does that tell you then about your own life? Like, are you living through something else, or are you doing your own thing? The more I thought about that was that so for instance, in the morning, and I've with varying success, but a lot more success in the past 2 years than years prior. The morning is my own. If I can be organized enough in the beginning of the day to know a couple things. One, glass of water. I will single-handedly recommend that to anybody who's trying to wake up and struggling to stay up. Don't go for coffee first because it dehydrates your body. And then usually what I will do is I will either read 15 minutes, sometimes. I will write 15 minutes or like I will write in a diary or I'll write something creatively.
Yeah.
Those things have done more to make me aware that time is precious and it is assumptive to believe that you will have more time later. I don't know if that's exactly how to answer the question, but
I think it hits it definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with this episode, I mean, we're kind of hitting at the point where people are making New Year's resolutions and stuff like that.
Right. Exactly.
And this year we actually we get to have COVID in mind when we make our New Year's resolutions.
Right.
Whereas last year, I mean, you could have whatever resolution you had last year got thrown out the window.
Right.
The second COVID hit. So, obviously we both have Instagram accounts. We both have Facebook accounts. We both have, there's purpose behind each and every one of those things. And I think understanding what the purpose is and using it purposefully is good. I mean, I use it a lot for brewing boards. We obviously post a lot with the Table Talk with our show on there as well. And it's a good tool for all that. But you're right. Being aware about its intentions.
And knowing too that like you have a life outside of it.
Yeah. So the advice then, organizationally, would be to take some time away from devices and
not even away.
go.
Make it not convenient physically. Like I'll tell you
Okay.
one thing that changed my life. Put your phone on the opposite side of the room.
Hmm.
When you go to bed, put all electric things
Yeah.
that gives you access to the internet away from your physical self next to your bed. That single-handedly changed my sleep structure. Anyway,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
get passionate about this because I feel like there's a piece of it that our generation is going to have to really struggle with because we've been largely influenced by economic things at play that are like, I mean, frankly, like, look, like social media is there for communication, it's there for connection. It's also for data, and it's also for making you stay on it.
Yeah.
So
it's got an agenda, definitely.
It does. So it's just like, just know
it's
that.
a business. It's a business.
It is. It is
Instagram,
business.
Facebook, all this social media is a business. And I mean, quite honestly, books are a business too. And
they are.
But there's a clear distinction between the two of those things, right?
Books, books
are not mining for your information while you're reading them.
They're also not dinging at you when they're like, "Hey, you gonna read the chapter? Hey, you gonna read the chapter?" No,
right.
They just sit quietly on the shelf, ready for you to.
That's so true. Yeah,
they're just take it out whenever you want.
They're just like,
they're right.
They're the most patient things you'll ever meet.
Yep.
This is like, make a note of this, right? Two millennials that have a YouTube channel, like that's very millennial of us, right?
Yes.
Have a podcast that's very millennial of us. Two millennials that are advocating for books over social media and over movies, which we love, which we cannot stop talking about. And we will not stop watching movies, obviously. But
I'm probably going to watch one after
I
this is
do
done.
like that. I do like that you're making a very strong case for especially in the morning, making a time for yourself, right? To cater to your mind, to give your mind time to be what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's imaginative, it's creative, it needs more than your feed in a morning. It needs more than coffee. It needs more than just the basic day-to-day things. It does need more for mental health. I'm so happy that you shared all of that. My organization thing was Trello.
Not a bad one. I have used Trello. I am a fan.
It feels so insignificant after all of that. If you haven't tried Trello, try it out.
Dude, your 2021 looking forward to was so much better than mine, or like so much more extensive. So like it's good.
Yeah, there we go. We're yin and yang.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, let's move on. Great topic, and we could spend the rest of our lives probably conversing on this topic.
That's why we're friends, Rich.
Yes. And we hope you enjoy it too. And if you got more to say, let us know. We got to move on just for the sake of time.
Yes, yes, we do.
But we do want to hear everybody's thoughts on that. Let's talk about the number 2. So a sequence can't be a sequence unless something comes after the first thing.
Yep.
So the number 2 is very important in that sense. Obviously, a sequence would suggest that there's more. Actually, that's part of the number 2 conversation. Let's start out with this quote. And that's not a quote. It's just it's a concept. Plato argued that there was no meaning to the number 2, as the number 2 suggests a relationship, and a relationship will in turn introduce a third factor. So it has no meaning, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I not to provide a rebuttal against Plato.
Yeah. Let's argue with Plato. Let's pick on a guy that can't defend himself.
Yeah, can't defend himself. I will say this, and I was thinking about this suggestion of topic when you gave it. You know what's fascinating is it is not an anniversary until the second year.
Right. But it's your first anniversary.
It's your first anniversary, but it's your second year.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So I think about the number 2 as a sign that what you are doing has a particular momentum. Many things start, right? Like everything has a season 1.
Right.
But how many of those TV shows get canceled after season 1?
Right.
once you get into season 2, you get kind of like, okay, you're likely going to season 3.
Right.
Like you usually don't just make 2 seasons and then it goes kaput.
Yeah.
Not usually.
Right. So all you Table Talk fans have a lot to look forward to.
Oh yeah. So I think a lot about 2 in the relationship that, like, sure, 1 is great because without 1 there's nothing, right?
Right.
But the number 2 is often the sign that whoever or whatever is going on has something in mind for what is next.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Because go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you said anniversary.
Yeah. I keep thinking about that.
The second anniversary is the cotton anniversary. Just so you know. Which I know this isn't our second anniversary. This is technically our first anniversary, but I am wearing cotton underwear. So I'm celebrating our second season by wearing cotton underwear.
Rich, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Please be brief on that subject.
We've gone all this time without a great pun. I'm so glad that I can rely on you every single episode.
It is my pleasure
to give us the badunch of the episode. I love it.
Under where are we going to talk about this? Simon and Garfunkel's The Boxer. Great song.
Yeah, song. The Boxer. I was just thinking of that. I thought that was going to be too big of a stretch, but you pulled it together very well. Did you know the number 2 was the sponsor of the first Sesame Street episode?
That's great.
Yeah. Which bears the question, why not number 1?
Because it's more memorable if it's number 2. Because
why?
It'd be like starting a band, like being like, hey, it's volume 2. Being like, well, wait, where's volume 1? And then people start looking for them and they find the band.
The Star Wars effect. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was hilarious that the sponsor of the first episode of Sesame Street was the number 2.
That's great.
Like, why wouldn't you just do the number 1? Because that seems like a logical place to start in the sequence.
What you're saying is probably what the producer said, and then what they ended up with was what some witty writer was like, no, we got to keep it 2, man. It'll be more fun that way.
So in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, the 6 days of creation are described. The second day is the only day that the saying, and God saw it was good, is left out. For this reason, some consider the number 2 to be unlucky.
Well, what was he creating on the second day?
I don't remember. I had my phone out during that time. I don't remember what he was saying.
Little notification. Ding.
Yeah. That was probably the day he was creating. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. You'd be hot water regardless of what
I'm not going to say it. All right. Also, the shortest verse in the Bible consists of only 2 words.
Jesus wept.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's also he said, which is in Job. It's
he said.
Thing. Yeah.
That's the sentence.
Yeah, I think it was God saying something, so it was he said. I think,
or
Job. One of the
2. There's 2 national capitals that have been named in honor of 2 U.S. presidents. Do you know what these are? Two national capitals. So one is obvious.
Washington, D.C.
Yes, named after.
Moscow. No, kidding. Is it an American city?
Named after, Washington, D.C. named after George Washington.
Oh, sorry, national capitals.
National capitals. So there's another nation that's named after an American president.
Is there one in Liberia named after a
That's
U.S.
exactly
president?
It. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
Do you know what it is?
Is it Lincoln?
Nope. You got the country right. That's amazing that you know that.
Well, and I know the history why that is, but I'll explain in a second.
Oh my gosh.
You got me there. It's not Teddy or Theodore, is it?
Nope. It's James Monroe.
Oh, so that's right.
Monrovia.
Okay. Monrovia.
Yep. Named in honor of the 5th U.S. President, James Monroe. And they're also the only 2 presidents in the U.S. who have rerun for presidency unopposed.
Fascinating.
It's weird. They're the only 2 presidents that run unopposed, and they're the only 2 presidents that have nations named after them. Sorry, not nations. National capitals.
National capitals. Interesting. Well, I know the history of Liberia because I know that they specifically they were a country that I believe the United States like helped set the foundations for, and I forget. I'm assuming during James Monroe's period as president, but
yeah, I assumed it had something to do with that as well. But
yeah, like even their flag is like it looks sort of like a U.S. flag in its design. It's interesting. So
yeah, it is cool. Yeah. I'm just impressed you know it. I would not.
Well, thank you.
We also have Shakespeare's Sonnet Number 2, which I will read aloud. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tottered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes, were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer this fair child of mine, shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest it cold.
Yeah. Yeah, Billy. Good job.
Way to go, Billy.
Oh, yep. Billy Shakes.
What it means, I do not know.
Well, just let the meaning grow. If you don't, then I don't know. That's called ABA. Just say the same thing over and over.
ABA.
Yeah.
I think it has something about growing old and you should have kids because your beauty is in your kids or something.
Well, good job reading.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was good.
A little sophistication for our viewers and our listeners.
I like getting a little poem from Billy Shakes every now and again. Can I put you on the scientific spot and ask you, what is the second planet from the sun?
Venus.
Very good. And Venus is, interestingly enough, the hottest planet of the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
It is not Mercury. You'd think it would be.
Right. That's because Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere.
Correct. And Venus is a boiling cauldron of like molten sulfur
stuff
or something. Yeah. Don't go there, guys.
Yeah, don't go to Venus.
There is no planet 2 to go to if Earth goes down. Like Venus is not good.
Venus ain't the kind of place to raise your kids.
No. And it's kind of funny because Venus is named after the Roman god of love. So, yeah. Don't know what that means. Hot. Yeah, I guess, but that's my 2 contribution.
There you go. Sorry, I did have a lot to pile onto that.
No. I like that.
It was all very interesting. You're going to have a lot more to talk about in this next discussion topic, which is our last discussion topic.
Right.
Which is good sequels versus bad sequels, or best versus worst.
Yes.
I came up with best, worst, and equal because there are some that I feel like are good. There's some sequels that I feel like are good, but they're not better than the original. But they're also not like horrible.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I want to hear yours first because I have a list, and I want to know what on my list pairs with yours before I share it.
I'll kind of go through with what you were talking about. There's best, there's worst, and there's
equal.
Because that one's an interesting concept. All right, best ones, I think. I'll give you 3. Okay. Toy Story 2.
Ooh. So wait, are we saying you think Toy Story 2 is better than Toy Story 1?
Yes, and I'll explain why. I know. I know. I'll explain why in a second.
Please do.
Godfather Part 2, hands down, is better. Is better than Godfather Part 1. Which again, people may not agree with me on these, but this is where I'm at.
Yep. And if you disagree, we want to hear from you. But respectfully, please.
I'll do 4. Empire Strikes Back, better than A New Hope.
Okay.
And then the last one I was struggling with So I'm like, okay, how are we going to how would I stick with that fourth? Where would it be? Um, and there's a piece of me that's thinking like, okay, there's certain movies that I believe did a great job in expanding the world that they're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something you think you know about this world, and then all of a sudden something else pops up that
Right.
you
It
never
adds
right
to the whole story, the
the
whole
whole
world.
story that you couldn't even imagine could have existed. And I think a lot about is Temple of Doom,
Hmm.
Indiana Jones, which is interestingly enough a prequel. One set as a prequel.
Set as a prequel. What do you mean?
It's set before the era of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No. Hold
Yeah,
on. You're
yeah,
about to
it
blow
is.
my mind. I've never
Yeah,
even thought about this.
yeah, it's a prequel, but it's not. But it's not pitched as though it is. But it's it's a prequel.
It
You should look
happens
it up.
before Raiders of the
Yeah,
Lost Ark?
it'll change your view of the whole movie, honestly, if you watch it in that context.
That makes so much sense though.
Yeah, it does. It
Oh
makes it
my
better too.
goodness.
So let me go back to where I was. Toy Story 2. Reason why I think it's better than the first one. These are the following reasons. One, they take what was a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I think Toy Story was a perfect
Yep.
movie. It is not my favorite, but I believe it is I believe it is one of the most perfect movies to have come out in the 1990s in particular.
Mm-hmm.
The screenwriting was brilliant. The characters were great. The villain was terrifying. The situation was dire. All these things, right?
Yeah.
But then it took the option, which I thought was ballsy and bold, was to say, all right, Woody loves this kid to death.
Yeah.
But we're going to put in him a seed of doubt that he can't shake from his mind. And we're going to potentially root for him in this decision, even though we know that he has Andy inscribed on the bottom of his shoe. And then all of a sudden you also have Buzz Lightyear, who believed he was a toy, this whole instance in the first movie, to all of a sudden being the only person that actually got Woody out of his mind, or got him back in his right mind, and to say, you are a toy, you are a child's plaything. This kid loves you and will miss you if you don't come back. And then finally, they also introduced all these really fun characters that you thought, you're like, well, you got Ham, you got Slinky, you got Rex, you got Woody, you got Buzz, you got all these characters that you think you know and love. And then all of a sudden, you got Jesse, you got Bullseye, you got you got the Prospector, you got Big Al, the Big Al's Toy Barn guy. You got all these characters where you're like, oh, this is actually, like, you see a lot more than just the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is a perfect example of how, like, a sequel can actually push the boundaries of something that you think is possible. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, of course, like, this is perfect. This makes sense. The other thing that I'll at least give props for Pixar is that they essentially, from top to bottom, completely changed that movie in a matter of 9 months in order to make it a theatrical movie, not a straight to movie release. And I will, for those of you who find that interesting, you can do the research yourself, but just know that Toy Story 2 was originally a made for VHS movie that Pixar realized that they did not want to be made into just a release to VHS movie. They took it to Disney. Disney said, you can do what you want. You only have 9 months. The wheels on the train are moving too fast and we can't just stop. So Pixar basically said, it's either we make this excellent or we make it mediocre. And they went to the excellent choice. And that changed single-handedly, I think, how they treated their films from that point on.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
That's a cool perspective. I love the perspective you bring to the movie conversation in particular, because that's not something I would have thought of. Okay. I mean, you're right. Toy Story is like a perfect movie.
It's a perfect movie.
And it speaks a lot to us in particular because it came out when we were kids. We got to see the original Toy Story when it came. Another thing that's like never going to happen again, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to see the original Toy Story when it first came out. Like, that's just kind of cool. Yeah, so I mean, I have a hard time with the Toy Story too, but I appreciate that perspective.
Again, simply my opinion.
And you understand aspects of that process that I think contribute to that opinion. So
yeah,
if all that kind of rings true with the second Toy Story and kind of the creative process behind that, it does give it a lot more value in my mind than I wasn't originally giving it. So
okay, so Godfather Part 2 I think did something that was incredibly difficult in that they told two entire different stories, merged it together into one film, and made you think that both of those things were related, which they were, but doing it in a way that explained not just one character's backstory, but both. And that is incredibly difficult to do. And I mean, I still think the most memorable scene in any of the Godfather films, terribly lonely scene when he's singing in Italian to himself as a child, and he's in quarantine on Ellis Island, and he's basically looks like he's a prisoner, and he's just kind of sitting there. I don't know what he's singing, but he's singing a song to himself to kind of comfort himself. That shook me up in a way that the first movie did not. Empire Strikes Back is the other one that I will say is better than the first one, not because Star Wars was not a movie that broke the mold of most everything we know of in watching a movie, but I think it took something that came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's like, so you think that this hero is fighting against this villain who's this evil and sinister and has this, scary breath and this red lightsaber and, oh, he killed Obi-Wan. This guy's nuts.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize this dude is his dad.
He's the daddy.
I remember watching as a child, like, it's both shivers, gasping, eyes wide, and being like, wait, what?
And possible.
I said possible, but like you're in your head, you're thinking the same thing that Luke is screaming out with his like almost like gopher, like it has like almost like a gopher look about him when he's saying it. No,
that's not true. That's not possible.
Even without that, notwithstanding, it moves. It lets the bad guys win, which is also difficult to do and do it well.
Well, it's easy to do when you know there's a third movie coming.
Exactly. But it's also a difficult task to pull off because we also know that Last Jedi was about how it did that.
Yeah.
But again, that may be controversial to say.
Yeah. Too soon.
Too soon.
Maybe,
and then the honorable
maybe in
mention,
2031 we can have that conversation.
Right. Yeah. The honorable mention I will go back to is Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, and the only reason why I will put that in the honorable mention bracket, not being better, and excuse me for saying that originally.
No, I'm shaking my head because I never even thought about it being a prequel. I never even questioned it.
But I just love the fact that he took something that, it's this archaeological guy who finds the 10 Commandments of all things. I mean, you're talking like the Cooperstown Hall of Fame of like all historic things other than maybe Noah's Ark of things that people would want to find. But then he takes this idea of like, okay, we're going to shift continents. We're going to put him in a completely different scenario with completely different characters. There is no other character in Temple of Doom that is the same except for Indiana Jones.
That's right. Yeah.
And yet they kind of pulled it off. And a lot of people have like differing opinions on Temple of Doom. I misquoted myself in that I don't think it's better than Raiders, not by a long shot, but I do think that it is an incredibly respectful entry in terms of sequels, because it does open your imagination to something that Indiana Jones might have encountered. And then you realize this guy is truly a globetrotter that will go after any kind of archaeological thing. Which I think is really exciting.
Yeah. It's man, my mind's still blown. Let me match you with my best.
Please.
Dark Knight, which I think is the this might be saying a lot, but I feel like it's the standard of what a sequel that's better than its original movie is.
I agree.
When you think of a series, right? You don't honestly think of the second movie or the third movie before the first, right? You can say that Empire Strikes Back is better than A New Hope, but everybody knows A New Hope and everybody knows that movie, right? And we'll watch probably A New Hope before they watch Empire Strikes Back if they're going to watch it in a series, right? So you can watch Batman Begins and it's okay, right? But you can watch Dark Knight without it and it's great. So anyway, that's the very top. I also had Empire Strikes Back.
Very good.
A
Heard of that one?
a couple that surprised me that I ended up thinking about. Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
Which we just got done talking about with our Christmas episode, but it's part of the National Lampoon series, right? It's I think it's the third movie that they made in the National Lampoon.
Okay.
The Vacation series, the Chevy Chase. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Ooh, good choice.
Was actually the third movie of what's it called? The Man, I have it written down.
The No Name trilogy?
Yeah, the Man with No Name series.
Yeah.
So spaghetti westerns, which I meant to ask you, what's a spaghetti western? Like what
does it mean?
How does it get that name? Yeah.
Oh.
How does it get that name and what is it?
Because you have to eat spaghetti? No. No, spaghetti westerns, they were filmed in Italy.
Ah, okay.
Westerns filmed in Italy. That's basically or they were made by Italian film directors. But I'm pretty sure they were filmed in Italy. I think that was the thing.
Okay. Cool. So it's Fistful of Dollars in 1964, for a few dollars more in 1965, and The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, which is 1966. All right. Let's keep going. What are your worst sequels?
Worst sequels. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. That was terrible. that second movie was just horrible. I mean, mind you,
what about it specifically though?
It just was like, let's just take this lovely pixie stick of a first movie that was all and hard, the substance was so. Again, still enjoy it, but and then let's just make it like 4 hours long with more special effects that we can't decipher which robot is which robot.
Right.
And then, we're going to have a robot afterlife scene in which Shia LaBeouf somehow is in the robot afterlife world. That I never understood. That was a mess. So there was that one. Jaws 2 is pretty bad.
I don't think I ever saw Jaws 2.
Yeah, I'll put a big old thumbs down on that one. And then the other one I will throw out there is, I just had in my head. You know what? I'm gonna stick with those, and then I'll probably think of it.
If it comes up.
Yeah,
we can always cut back to it.
Yeah.
My worst, and this is going to go into a Harry Potter rant, and I apologize. Have I had my Harry Potter rant with you? I can't remember.
No.
Prisoner of Azkaban. This is about the books and about the movie. I mean, it's about the book more so because that's where it started. Prisoner of Azkaban, probably one of the worst sequel stories ever created, in my opinion. I can't ever forgive J.K. Rowling for introducing time travel into the Harry Potter world. I just don't think it belongs. It's a world of magic. I get it, and time travel seems like it would be a good magical concept to explore. But when you give a 13-year-old girl the ability to go back in time and just so she can get extra classes in, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think you could have had another solution to that problem, a more creative solution to the problem without introducing time travel into the world.
Okay. All right. Respect.
I do like the story. I mean, honestly, I love this. I love the whole story of Sirius Black. I love the whole story up until the moment.
Up until the moment.
The moment that everything is solved through time travel. It just
couldn't abide by that.
I just can't stand it. I can't stand it at all. There's too many holes with it, and it bothers me. I do have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on here as one of the worst sequels. Not because of the story. I like the story a lot, actually. Purely because of Harrison Ford's acting.
Really, you didn't like his acting in that one?
I didn't like his acting at all. I mean, I liked him better in the Star Wars reboot. I think he did a better job as Han Solo than he did as Indiana Jones in his older age. from the opening line, he gets out of the car and it's his shadow. I love that. It's a shadow against the car and everything he puts on the hat. The moment he says his first line, it's like he's trying too hard. like there's something about it. It's just like, no, that's probably a little harsh, and I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that I'm a harsh person, but it's I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Okay.
And it's unbearable to me to watch just mostly because of his acting.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
All right.
But I don't have an issue with the sci-fi. I don't. I want to make that clear. I like the aliens.
The aliens, I like that too, to be honest.
I like the aliens. I don't care about that. I purely care about Harrison Ford's ability to play 1960s, sorry, not 1960s, 1970s, 1980s Harrison Ford. So, anyway.
Yeah, that's my question is like for Indy 5, when will it be set? Right. I hope he goes to like Woodstock. Indiana Jones going to Woodstock. The search for the tie-dyed shirt. Worn by the Beach Boys.
Right.
That'll be interesting. And Jimi Hendrix gets a role in it, and and he becomes the supporting character as they're looking for the tie-dyed shirt in the streets of San Francisco. Then there's a giant motorcycle chase, and then it's across the Golden Gate Bridge. Say movie Indiana 5, bam, right there.
Oh my god!
And then he meets Minnesota Bob. That's Florida Smith, Tennessee Williams, Virginia Woolf. Nevada Man. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you could do it. Just saying, Indiana Jones is not alone in the state name. So
yeah, he is. It's kind of interesting actually growing up in Indiana.
Yep.
Did you have any in the equal category?
Equal category, the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy by far.
Yep, I got Two Towers in mine. Yep.
I also, though it is not by no means a favorite of mine. I think Hunger Games, the second one, Catching Fire, is equal to, if not better, frankly, than that first one.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I forgot about Hunger Games, but yeah, I would agree. It's in the equal category. I had Two Towers and Return of the King.
Excellent choices. Yep.
As equals. Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
Excellent. Yep.
Very
Good
equal.
Choice. Very equal.
Home Alone 2 is very close to being better than Home Alone, but Home Alone is still very, 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 very good. There you go. The best, worst, and equals sequels.
Equal sequels.
Equal sequel. That's the sequence conversation. Wow. I was worried. I was honestly worried that we would not have enough to talk about with sequence, because it's such kind of like it's like a broad but also somewhat limited topic. We found the topic.
This is like almost a Lawrence of Arabia cut, guys. Like, that's how long we went.
Like usual, Alex, I had a good time talking with you. And I wish we could do this more. But I understand why. Congratulations, Baby Barker. Looking forward to that. So that by the next time we talk, probably gonna be a daddy.
Be the big day. Yeah.
Gonna be a father. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Prayers with you, and
thank you.
Thanks for listening, liking, commenting, subscribing.
Until next time, guys. Be happy.
Yeah. Brew happy.
And game on.
Cheers.
Cheers. Last sip. Here we go.
Forgot my glass.
Guys, the brain cannot multitask. You can only do one task at a time.
Right.
Like you physically can only handle. Like you don't have two brains.
Yeah,
like
we're not iguanas. Like our eyes don't do this.
Right. That would be chameleons, but close. Yeah, it's okay. You got it. No, that's all right. You got the lizard. You got the green. Iguanas are pretty cool too, man. They so. So all those who are interested about iguanas,